Okay, so just a little review of what we've been doing in 3.5. We have our quadratic formula, and our quadratic formula looks like this. Negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And this part inside, we gave it a special name. It's called the discriminant. And that discriminant, that yellow part, tells us how many roots there's going to be. If that yellow part is negative, there's going to be no roots because you can't take the square root of a negative. If that yellow part is equal to 0, there's only going to be one root because you're going to add 0 and subtract 0. That'll do the same thing, leaving you with only one answer. And if that yellow part is positive, you're going to have two roots. And depending on whether or not it's a perfect square, there'll either be two rational roots if it is a perfect square, or two irrational roots if it's not. How do we tell in a question that we're going to solve using the discriminant? Often it tells us something about the number of roots. So in this question, determine the values of k for which 2x squared plus 7x plus k has no real roots. So it tells us something about the number of roots. And that's the hint in the question that says you should look at the discriminant. Because knowing that it has no real roots tells us that b squared minus 4ac has to be negative. If it has to be negative, the equation we write is an inequality with it less than or equal to less than 0, not equal to 0. So now we can plug the values in. We know that b is 7. We know that a is 2. And what we're trying to solve for is k. Do you remember your rules for solving inequalities? You solve them just like an equation, with the exception of one rule, where if you multiply or divide by a negative, you have to flip that inequality. So in this case, if I wanted to solve this, I want to get k by itself. If I move the 49 to the other side of the equation by subtracting 49 on both sides, the inequality would stay the same way because I haven't multiplied or divided yet. But now if I divide by negative 8, I will have to, if I divide by negative 8, now my sign is going to flip. And negative 49 divided by negative 8 is the same as 49 over 8. So as long as your k value is bigger than 49 over 8, can someone tell me a whole number that's bigger than 49 over 8? So example, 7. 7 is bigger than 49 over 8. 8 is bigger than 49 over 8. Because this is equal to 6.125, or something like that if you calculate it. So now it says use one value of k. We said for an example, we're going to use 7 to rewrite this equation so that it has no real roots. So we'd have 2x squared plus 7x plus 7 equals 0. And then if you did try to solve it now, you'll get a negative square root and find out there's no solution. So from the first one, we came up with an example of 7, where because our k value has to be bigger than 49 over 8. And any number, if you would have put 8 or 9 or 10, they would have all worked. So in part B, it just said find an example that works. Yes, Brad?
How do you know that you're just going to get a negative root just by looking at the question?
From here, because we solved it in A. In A, we set up that b squared minus 4ac, the yellow part inside the quadratic, we said it has to be less than 0. And that makes it negative. So then when we solved it by plugging in k and the numbers for a and b, we found out that k had to be bigger than 6.125. And anytime k is bigger than 6.125, then this is going to be true, that this is going to be negative. And then we'll have no roots because of that. We could test it if we like. We could take 49 minus 4 times 2 times 7, which will be 49 minus 56, and you'll get negative 7. And then you go, yes, it doesn't work.
So if you're just going to do, for proving
For proving which way that it works, you would do this part that we did on A. And then if you wanted to check to make sure that you didn't make a mistake, because sometimes you might forget to flip the sign, right? Or something little like that. So you can always, once you have it, plug it back into the formula and see, did it work out how I wanted it to? Okay, the questions you can do with this one are 8, 9, and 10. And we are going to skip example 3.
Sorry for the interruption.
Hello?